Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Now, if you have maybe seen my Schiit Freya Plus preamp review, you might know that I complained a little bit about it sounding kinda harsh in the upper mid-range and basically brighter and thinner in the mid-range than I would like. And I was especially surprised because that was happening in a tube mode that's supposed to be lush, right? That's like 3D and thick, and that's the idea of tubes, right? But then so many of you suggested in the comments that if I want to know how Freya Plus really sounds in a tube mode, I have to do a little bit of tube rolling and I have to try some NOS tubes, and that the default JJs are just not that good. So I did my research, I saw what kind of tubes people usually recommend for Freya Plus. I could find some were really difficult to find, for example NOS tongue soles. Either they would be really expensive and shipping to my country, Serbia, would be expensive, or seller doesn't even ship it here, or there is a very reasonable doubt that those are not true tongue soles but some sort of Chinese ripoffs. So unfortunately I had to skip on tongue soles, but I did get some Sylvania NOS GTB models, and GTB means, if I'm correct, that they are from 1950s. There is GTA and only GT, but those are supposed to be good. And I only got one pair of these. This is a matched pair. It costs me around $70 US, something like that. Why two of them and not all four? Well, I'll explain, because how Freya Plus actually works and what tubes are used for. You can mix and match different tubes, but I'll get to that a little bit later. And as I said, my friend brought another two GT models, so we could test how it sounds with all Sylvania tubes and several mixes and matches. And I also tried some new LinLai, something like that tubes. Those are big chunky ones. These are newly produced. And again, this matched pair cost me another 69, 70 something, I don't know with shipping how much US. And of course, I had default JJ ones. And here's an important piece of info that you should know if you're new to this Freya Plus tube rolling. These are basically buffer tubes here on your left, and here on your right we have gain stage tubes. So these two on the left have to be same and have to be a matched pair, and these two on the right again have to be the same and have to be matched pair if you want both of your channels to work equally. So all of these doesn't have to be the same. You don't need to buy 4 matched tubes. You only need 2 pairs of matched tubes. They can be the same kind, but they can be different manufacturers. You can do anything you like, as long as you keep the left pair matched and the right pair matched. So that said, I did a lot of mixing and changing positions, and I've tried every combination that I could with these 10 tubes that I had at my disposal. And as I've already explained in my initial review, if I use all 4 JJs, I found the sound to be kinda harsh and spitty in the mid-range, and quite a bit grainy, and I don't particularly like that. But if you, for example, put 4 of Sylvania tubes on Freya Plus, the tonality fills out significantly. Mid-range becomes fuller, and most importantly, that distant thin voicing that's a little bit farther behind your speakers and it's thinned out, it's harsh, it's spitty, becomes fuller, more palpable, and the soundstage stretches better. It has more 3D feeling to it. So with 4 of these, I found tonality to be really well balanced, and I wouldn't call that bright or dark or anything like that. It's smooth sounding, full sounding, but it doesn't have too much bite. So for example, edges and sudden plucks, those are okay, but not really as quick and as crispy as with JJs. But that's definitely a compromise I'm willing to make, because these, to my ears, sound much more pleasant, and I could actually listen to Freya Plus for longer periods of time without getting tired. And that definitely did happen with JJs. Then I've tried mixing. So what I basically did was putting 2 of JJs on either left or right side and 2 of Sylvanias in the other one. And the funny thing is that when I put JJs on the right side, which is the gain stage, I get that lispy, spitty, harsh sound again. And Sylvanias on the left side they do help a little bit, but not by much. But when I switch side and put Sylvanias to the right in the gain stage and then JJs to the left, which is the buffer stage, wow, I kinda really liked that combination. When I did that, what I get is pretty smooth and full sounding mid-range, but some of the attack and bite of edges and plucks that JJs have is preserved. And in my mind, that was quite a perfect combination of speed and agility from JJs and like fuller, nicer, smoother tonality from Sylvanias. And I preferred that sound to 4 JJs, but I also preferred it to 4 Sylvanias. So that's definitely a great and also cheap way to improve tube mode sound, in my opinion. Just buy a pair of these and put them in the gain stage. Don't change anything in the buffer side. Just leave JJs there. You get pretty good mix of speed, agility, zest on the edges and quickiness, but you solve most of the spittiness, sharpness, harshness in this upper mid-range, and you get smoother, fuller tonality with juicier vocals, with more palpable tones, with more body, with more timbre, but you get to keep a lot of the speed and resolution of Freya Plus. Now lastly, moving to this pair of these newly produced LinLai, they come from China, you probably guessed by name, and funny enough, as their look suggests, these sound fuller and juicier and bassier than JJs by a lot, but they're also slightly rolled off up top. So highs are not as airy and as sparkly as with other tubes. And I've combined these with all others, and I can definitely tell you that I didn't like them in the left side, which is buffer stage. There, I feel that they just close off the sound and warm it way too much, and I feel that I'm losing details and speed, and edges are becoming kinda blunt. But on the right side, which is the gain stage, they sound quite nice and quite decent. They sound just a little bit fuller, darker, and more rolled off in the highs than Sylvanias paired with JJs, and that's quite decent combination. If you like warm sound, I can maybe suggest buying these new and combining them with JJs, just putting them here on the right side. But in my opinion, Sylvanias produced something that I would call more natural sound. They're both equally smooth. LinLais are a little bit juicier and warmer in the bass and mid-bass, a little bit less precise and less sparkly in highs. Sylvanias are more transparent. So all of that said, my personal favorite combination is the one that you're seeing here in Freya currently. So JJs in the buffer stage and Sylvanias in the gain stage. I also think JJs and LinLai produce pretty nice sound, Sylvania's and LinLai produce a little bit warmer sound than I would ideally like. It's not just my cup of tea, but you can play with it. If you have overly thin or bright sounding system, that can sound pretty nice and decent to you. But I wouldn't use all four of LinLai. I think that would be a really dark and syrupy sound. I haven't tried that because I only have one pair, and just by having them on the left side in the buffer stage, I already thought the sound went a little bit too warm for my taste. I definitely think having them in both stages would be too much. Sylvanias in both stages sound really smooth. They have this kind of mild vintage sound to them, and some of you may really like 4 Sylvanias. I have nothing against that, but in my mind, JJ's plus Sylvanias worked great. It's still this modern, quick, snappy sound thanks to JJ's on the left, but really smoothed and filled out in the mid-range thanks to Sylvanias in the gain stage. Combinations are endless. You can purchase and try a lot of different tubes and variations of tubes and mix them and combine them in different ways. And that's really fun to do. I enjoyed doing this. Will I buy more tubes and try something more? No, I won't, probably, because I like Freya Plus. I could definitely live with this combination that's currently in Freya Plus. It's just really decent tonality, full sound, everything is okay, nothing really to complain about. But will I try more tubes? No, I won't, because this experiment showed me that I can definitely fix some problems that I complained about mostly, but you cannot change the overall character of Freya Plus. In the end, I'm still preferring my current amp, which is Acoustic Invader preamp. I just find it to sound quicker and snappier, and it sounds wider. And Freya Plus is great on its own, and by rolling tubes, some things that were bothering me the most improved. But some things are just the same. For example, the overall speed and kick and slam of the bass line is basically similar with all these tubes. You do have that full lush bass line, but it is a little bit slower, a little bit bloomy bass line. If you're not a fan of that, no tube is going to fix it for you. It's just something that you like or you don't like. And none of these pairings matched the sheer speed and resolution of transients of the buffered stage in Freya Plus. And because I'm using solid state preamp already, it's a JFET class A design, something like that, that in my mind combines really good speed of solid state preamps, and it has better slam and kick than any of Freya's modes and wider soundstage. I'm preferring it, and I don't see that Freya Plus can catch up to it no matter which tubes I use. And for me, this will be the end of testing Freya Plus and some sort of closure, I could say. It is a really good preamp, it has its own set of qualities, it just doesn't suit my personal taste that much. But would it impress you might depend a lot on your own system and your own preferences. And I can imagine somebody using a really detailed sounding source, DAC, something like that, adding Freya Plus in the chain. I can completely imagine you being impressed by the added fullness, body and timbre that this tube mode brings into the chain. And it might finally be that piece of puzzle that is missing for you to completely enjoy the music and not be in any sort of analytical mode. But if, like me, you like using full, lush and rich sounding sources, and I tend to choose those type of DACs, for example. I'm currently using Leather Schumman, review coming soon by the way. That's another story, but it sounds so great and has huge soundstage, full lush vocals, that I don't hear Freya Plus adding that much to my soundstage and to 3D feeling. I can notice some bloom added to tones and to the bass line, but I don't always feel very positive about it. But as I said, in some systems, and just with some of you that have different taste than my own, I still think that Schiit Freya Plus is a really good preamp. It's especially good in US for the asking price. But I just don't think it's any sort of giant killer as many hyped it to be, because my own preamp is 1400s. It is slightly more expensive than Freya Plus, but in my country, with taxes that we have to pay for Freya Plus, they're actually equal in price. And I like it more, it's that simple. So that would be all about Freya Plus and tube rolling and my impressions about all of that. Thank you for suggesting me to do this, because I'm happy I did. I definitely found out that I did like it more with some tubes than with stock JJs. But I would still maybe use solid state buffer mode rather than tube mode. Or maybe not, with the right choice of tubes. Who knows? That would be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.